Top 13 Weird Facts About the 1966 Batmobile. Have you ever wondered why the 1966 Batmobile looks both futuristic and strangely familiar at the same time? What if I told you this legendary TV car didn't start life in Gotham at all, but as a forgotten Ford concept from the 1950s, and its transformation into Batman's ride happened under unbelievable pressure, with secrets even hardcore fans don't know. Some of those secrets were never meant to be revealed. Hidden flaws, rushed fixes, and shocking shortcuts that the studio hoped fans would never notice. Today on Our Community, we're diving deep into the story behind TV's most famous car. From hidden design tricks and unusual paint jobs to a full-blown drag racing version, these revelations will completely change how you see the Batmobile. Buckle up, hit that like button if you love classic TV machines, and get ready, because we're counting down 13 weird facts about the 1966 Batmobile that will shock you the most. Born as the Lincoln Futura, before it ever became Batman's ride, the 1966 Batmobile began life as one of Ford's wildest experiments, the Lincoln Futura. Built in 1955 by the famed Italian coach builder Ghia, the Futura cost a staggering $250,000, which translates to well over $2.5 million today. It wasn't meant for production. It was a rolling dream car, a futuristic design study meant to wow crowds at auto shows. And wow them it did. Painted in a shimmering pearlescent white, the car featured twin clear bubble canopies, exaggerated tail fins, and a front end that looked like it came straight out of a science fiction movie. Underneath, the Futura rode on a Lincoln chassis and carried a big V8, but performance wasn't the point. It was all about vision. For years, Ford paraded it around the show circuit as a symbol of American innovation. But after its publicity run ended, the car was forgotten collecting dust in Barris's Hollywood shop. Incredibly, George Barris had purchased the Futura from Ford for a single dollar, simply because keeping concept cars was too expensive for the company. That $1 investment would later change TV history forever. Transformed in just 3 weeks. When ABC handed George Barris the job of building a Batmobile, the studio gave him only 21 days to deliver. That kind of deadline would terrify most builders. Remember, custom cars normally take months or even years. Barris and his team had no choice but to work around the clock. The first step was stripping off the Futura's pearlescent white paint and replacing it with a sinister gloss black finish, accented by fluorescent orange pinstriping. Those stripes weren't just for style, they were chosen because orange showed up more clearly on 1960s black and white television cameras. From there, the team fabricated the now iconic bat nose front end, giving the car its instantly recognizable pointed profile. Out back, they added the atomic turbine exhaust, a dramatic touch that suggested jet-powered thrust, and crafted custom bat emblems for the hubcaps. Every piece was handmade fiberglass panels, metal trim, even the rocket tubes done without computer design, CNC machines, or laser cutters. Just raw craftsmanship, hammers, torches, and endless determination. By the time the car rolled onto the studio lot, the paint was barely dry, but television history was made. Yet the real magic in shaping metal wasn't Barris's alone. Another master craftsman was about to step into the spotlight. Bill Cushenberry, the metal magician. While George Barris gets the headlines for creating the Batmobile, the man who actually shaped its steel and fiberglass was the legendary customizer Bill Cushenberry. Known throughout the hot rod world for his unmatched metalworking skills, Cushenberry could take flat-sheet steel and hammer it into flowing sculpture. For the Batmobile project, he became the unsung hero. In his Monterey, California shop, quickly nicknamed Batmobile HQ, he and his crew worked 18-hour days to meet the impossible deadline. Cushenberry was responsible for cutting the new wheel arches that gave the car a muscular stance, hand-forming the nose extension into that sharp bat-like point, and reinforcing the frame so the car could handle the stress of television chase scenes. Every curve of the fenders, every flare of the bodyline carried his signature touch. His obsession with perfection meant the Batmobile wasn't just a showpiece, it was a functional vehicle that could take punishment on set without falling apart. Though Cushenberry rarely spoke about his role, anyone in the custom car community could recognize his craftsmanship all over the finished car. Without his artistry and sweat, the Batmobile might never have made it to the screen. The engine swap that saved the show. The Lincoln Futura originally came with a massive Y-block V8 under its long hood, but there was a serious problem. That motor ran blistering hot fine for short auto show demos, but a nightmare on a Hollywood set under blazing studio lights. During the very first week of filming, the Batmobile kept overheating, forcing the crew to stop and wait for the engine to cool. Time is money in television, and delays like that simply weren't acceptable. George Barris made the bold decision to rip out the Lincoln Y block and replace it with a more practical power plant, a Ford Galaxie 390 cubic-inch V8. With a 4.05-inch bore and 3.78-inch stroke, the FE series engine produced around 315 horsepower, but more importantly, it could idle for hours without boiling over. This was the very same 390 big block found in Ford Galaxies and Fairlanes at the Strip, so the Batmobile shared DNA with some of the Blue Oval's toughest muscle cars. The swap required reworking motor mounts, adapting the transmission, and modifying the cooling system, but it was worth the effort. The new engine gave the Batmobile plenty of torque for chase scenes, while being easy to service with parts available at any Ford dealership. That pragmatic choice is what kept the Batmobile reliable through years of filming. Multiple Batmobiles built on Ford Galaxie chassis. Most fans think there was only one Batmobile roaring through Gotham streets in the 1960s, but the truth is far more practical. Once the hero car built from the original Lincoln Futura was finished, George Barris knew it couldn't handle the punishing demands of weekly filming on its own. The solution was to build backup Batmobiles using Ford Galaxie chassis as donors. Cars numbered 2, 3, and 4 were created, each one crafted with fiberglass bodies that faithfully replicated the Futura's dramatic lines. These chassis were stretched and reinforced, giving them better strength than the delicate concept car. Under the hoods, the engines varied depending on the car's purpose. Some carried reliable small blocks to survive long hours of filming, while others were fitted with fire-breathing 427 FE big blocks that delivered serious muscle for action shots. Each replica had a specific role. One served as the stunt car, another was used to showcase gadgets and props on camera, and one was dedicated to promotional appearances. On screen, audiences never noticed the difference. But behind the scenes, these Galaxie-based Batmobiles kept production running smoothly, ensuring that Batman always had wheels ready for the next chase. And yet, one of these Batmobiles never even touched the studio lot. A tilting nose for easy entry. One clever feature that separated some of the replica Batmobiles from the original was the forward-tilting nose section. While it looked dramatic, its purpose was actually practical. Climbing into the Batmobile wasn't easy. The bubble canopies were low, the doors were narrow, and the seats sat deep inside the cockpit. For Adam West and Burt Ward, it meant mastering the famous Batmobile slide, but for fans at mall tours and car shows, it was nearly impossible. Barris came up with a solution. On Batmobile number 3 and a few other promotional replicas, the entire front clip, everything from the windshield forward, was designed to pivot upward on hydraulic struts. With a couple of latches released, the nose would rise, opening up the interior like a showcase. Kids could step right in without struggling, and photographers had the perfect angle to capture the dashboard full of blinking lights, chrome toggles, and labeled Bat gadgets. It turned every appearance into a full experience, not just a photo op. The engineering was simple but effective: balanced hydraulics, sturdy pivot points, and a lightweight fiberglass nose section. It worked smoothly and safely, making the Batmobile far more fan-friendly during its tours. Stretched 11 inches longer. The Lincoln Futura was already a long and dramatic car, but George Barris wanted the Batmobile to look even more outrageous on screen. His solution was radical: cut the frame in half and stretch it a full 11 inches. That might not sound like much, but in the world of chassis design, it is a massive change. Every component had to be modified, the drive shaft replaced with a longer custom unit brake, and fuel lines extended, and the entire wiring harness lengthened to fit the new proportions. This wasn't done just for show. The added wheelbase improved stability, especially with the weight of the Ford 390 V8 up front, and all the crime-fighting gadgets mounted in the rear. It gave the car a better balance, making it safer for high-speed runs and stunt maneuvers. In many ways, the stretched wheelbase made it behave more like a big-bodied Impala SS or a Chrysler 300 long, heavy cruisers that still carried plenty of muscle on the open road. On television, the effect was even greater. 1960s TV cameras tended to compress proportions, so the stretch made the Batmobile appear sleek, sinister, and impossibly long, exactly what kids imagined a superhero should drive. From that point forward, every replica built by Barris included the same extension. The elongated wheelbase became part of the Batmobile's DNA, ensuring its silhouette was unmistakable. Batmobile number 4, the drag racer. While most Batmobiles were busy on the TV set or greeting fans at car shows, so he stuffed a brutal 427 cubic inch Police Interceptor V8 under the hood. Tuned with high-compression pistons, a radical racing camshaft, and multiple carburetors, this engine pumped out well over 500 horsepower, an outrageous figure for the mid-1960s. The chassis didn't escape attention either. It was heavily reinforced to handle the strain of hard launches, and a drag-style suspension system was fitted to help transfer weight to the rear tires. Out back, Barris even added a wheelie bar to keep the Batmobile from flipping skyward when the throttle was mashed. On the quarter mile, the car consistently ran mid-12-second times numbers that put it in the company of serious factory muscle like the Hemi Mopars and big block Chevys of the day. Think about it, mid-12s meant the Batmobile could line up against a 66 426 Hemi Belvedere or a 427 Galaxie lightweight and actually hold its own. Despite its performance focus, Batmobile number 4 looked nearly identical to the TV hero car. Fans at the drag strip couldn't believe Batman's ride could actually run this hard. For many in the crowd, it blurred the line between fantasy and reality. One moment they were watching a TV prop, the next they saw a caped Crusaders car roaring past real Hemis and 409 Chevys on the strip. It felt less like a stunt and more like a secret weapon unleashed. Early cars painted in black velvet. One of the strangest secrets of the first Batmobiles is that they weren't painted with normal automotive paint at all. Because Barris and his team had only 3 weeks to turn the Lincoln Futura into the caped Crusaders ride, the bodywork wasn't perfect. Fiberglass ripples, seams, and rough edges would have been obvious under the harsh studio lights. The solution, a special black velvet flocking paint. This unusual coating was sprayed onto the body and embedded with tiny fibers, creating a matte light, absorbing surface that cleverly disguised imperfections. On television, it looked flawless, smooth, shadowy, and menacing. But that sinister finish was really a cover-up. The velvet paint wasn't about style, it was a desperate trick to hide rushed bodywork full of ripples and seams. Under the studio lights, the flaws disappeared, but off-camera, the truth was impossible to ignore. The non-reflective finish also prevented glare from bouncing into the cameras something glossy paint would have ruined. For a superhero car, the effect was perfect. But in real life, the velvet finish was a nightmare. It couldn't be washed like normal paint rain damaged it, and even brushing against the body left marks. The cars required constant upkeep, and for promotional tours, it simply wasn't practical. Eventually, later Batmobiles and restorations were given proper glossy black finishes. Still, that early velvet paint gave the very first Batmobile an eerie, almost otherworldly presence, unlike anything else on the road. Gadgets galore. The Lincoln Futura may have started as a concept car, but to become the Batmobile, it needed gadgets, lots of them. The TV producers went all out filling the cockpit with crime-fighting tools that fired the imagination of every kid glued to the screen. Right in the center sat the famous red bat phone glowing dramatically whenever Commissioner Gordon called. Next to it was the so-called Bat radar scope, essentially a modified TV screen used to track villains. Barris also installed the Bat turn lever, which supposedly let the car spin 180 degrees on command, along with front rams, a smokescreen, and even a bat ray hidden in the headlights. Most of these props did not actually function, but the combination of chrome toggles, blinking lights, and carefully labeled switches sold the illusion perfectly. The Batmobile was not just transportation, it looked and felt like Batman's most trusted partner in crime fighting. And hidden among those futuristic gadgets was one that truly predicted the future. Rear-facing camera, way ahead of its time. Decades before backup cameras became mandatory, the Batmobile was already showing off the idea. The car featured what producers called the Bat Scope, a rear-facing camera cleverly disguised in the turbine exhaust at the back of the car. On screen, it looked like Batman could see behind him in real time, giving him an edge over Gotham's villains. In truth, it was pure Hollywood trickery. Sometimes footage of the rear view was filmed separately and played on the in-car monitor, and in certain close-up shots, a primitive closed-circuit TV system was actually used to sell the illusion. For 1966, this was revolutionary. Most Americans could not imagine a car that allowed the driver to see behind them without turning around. Today, every modern vehicle from pickups to SUVs is required by law to have a backup camera. The Batmobile predicted it nearly half a century earlier. But futuristic cameras were not the only wild feature this car could even drive itself. Remote-controlled driving trick. One of the Batmobile's most mind-blowing features on TV was its ability to drive itself. Viewers in 1966 were amazed to see Batman summon the car with a gadget in his hand, only for it to roll up empty, ready for action. Of course, it was not really remote-controlled. This was Hollywood's sleight of hand. For many shots, a hidden stunt driver lay flat inside the car or operated a second set of controls tucked into the back seat. With the black interior and low seating position, he was practically invisible to cameras. To complete the illusion, the prop team built a dramatic control box with switches, dials, and a tall antenna. When Adam West pushed a button, the car obediently moved on cue. For audiences, it looked like science fiction made real. In truth, it was clever stagecraft that convinced a generation the Batmobile was more than just a car, it was alive. But the wildest secret of all was not a gadget at all. It was George Barris's business genius. George Barris kept ownership and made millions. Here is the ultimate twist. George Barris never actually sold the Batmobile to 20th Century Fox. Instead, he struck a deal to lease it to the studio, a decision that turned out to be pure genius. By keeping ownership, Barris also held the rights to build replicas, license the design, and cash in on merchandising. In the late 1960s, Batmobile toys model kits, slot cars, and die-cast replicas flew off store shelves, with Barris earning a share of every sale. Over the decades, he toured the original car across the country, charging appearance fees and building an empire around Batman's ride. When he finally decided to part with the hero car in 2013, it sold at auction for an incredible $4.62 million. Not bad for a vehicle he had once bought from Ford for just $1. Barris did not just build the Batmobile, he turned it into a fortune. And that is why the Batmobile remains one of the most legendary TV cars ever made. And there you have it, 12 weird facts about the 1966 Batmobile that prove this was not just a TV prop, but a true piece of automotive history. From its origins as the Lincoln Futura to drag racing glory and million-dollar auctions, every detail added to the legend. And even now, whispers remain rumors of another forgotten Batmobile body hidden away in a California warehouse, waiting to be rediscovered. Which fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. We would love to hear your thoughts and stories. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of TV's most iconic cars, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss our next classic car feature. Until next time, keep the engines roaring and the nostalgia alive.